Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Wherever you're watching from, good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, whatever the time is in your location, right? What an awesome evening we're going to have. Like, I'm so excited about this evening session that I have been anticipating it since Saturday. We're supposed to have the session on Saturday, but somehow we couldn't make it. But thank you so much for still tuning in despite all of it. I mean, it's been an amazing ride since the first session that we had for the conference where we had Aremo, Oluwatobi, Olalekan come talk to us about relationship, marriage, and family. And you can agree with me that that session was like, it was really amazing. So many light bulb moments, so many opening and all. And I've just really been looking at it to say that I understand that we have a lot of people in different locations, different backgrounds, and different ideologies. People who have learned from their environment, from books, or people that they even follow. But every single session that we've had since then has been relatable. I mean, like, you can easily pick something from it, whether you're single or you're in a relationship or you're married. There's something there for you. I mean, we spoke about um handling hurts, right? Handling breakfast. We also spoke about talking stage, right? What it should be like. What happens when if you are in a talking stage and suddenly it doesn't work out. We spoke about that, and it was really amazing to see that everybody found their peace. We also spoke about being a father for him, or what it has been like, and we spoke extensively on that because I mean, it's something that people don't really talk about. They just feel like you go into fatherhood or parenthood thinking like you can just really wing everything, but you get on there and then start to get children that are this dysfunctional, and they're just all around, and before you know, they grow up to be the series of kind of people we find on Twitter, where you just say anything anyhow, or you don't really know how to put words together, or you don't really understand what you should be saying and what you should not, right? So I feel like all of those things stem from family, and we're really able to see that when I remote took that session. The second session we had from was Orifun Kelawa, where she took us through what it meant to make impact and also make money. I mean, we could learn from that session what it meant to do something for your community and do it for free, and also do something for your community and do it and make money from it, right? So it was a lot for us, and I feel like today is sort of like not so much of a continuity, but it's something like that, right? Making impact and making money. So you're not just making impact, but you're also making income, right? So but today we are taking it a top notch high. We are looking at making impact, what the process has been like, what the journey has, and I'm sure that you have been enjoying all the questions I've been asking, because to be very honest, right, these questions are not just born from, oh, let's just put questions together. No, it's born from the fact that they are seeing people from different stages of their life. I've heard people say, oh, Della, I want to be a startup, I want to go into tech, I want to, and all of that. How do I get into it? So for me, I'm like, why not let's just come and hear from the horse's mouth? Everybody wants to do something, right? Everybody wants to get on a journey, but you really don't know how you want to do that. Can we just come and hear from someone who's been there, who's still there, and really making waves in that area? And I'm so excited to have Oluwaseun Kayode with us today. I mean, my first encounter with Sheon, I'm like, who is this person? First of all, it wasn't so much of a long conversation, but I just knew that this must be a kind of person. And then suddenly I was having a conversation with my friend, Mide Olubi, where I spoke about, that's my brother, and I'm like, yo, that's good. Now I can see the bloodline. It's very evident, right? So, and when you have people like this come talk to you about topics like this, please pay attention, because it's very important. Even for me, I'm not just here asking for you people. So people should not think I'm here for only you. I'm here for myself as well. So I want to really understand how somebody can have the effrontery, the audacity to say you want to build something for. I know how education can be is a deep rooted issue. So for you to say you want to pick a side and really work on it with all your might, it takes a lot. And so I'm so excited to welcome Sean with us today. So I will just bring him up in our usual culture, Please let's welcome him. Let's welcome. He's going to be here with us today. Oluwaseun Kayode is the. I'm bringing him live already. Oluwaseun Kayode is the founder of School Linker, and building such a phenomenal product. I'm so excited to hear him really talk about it by himself. But Sean, please can you just take us through what you do? We really want to hear from the horse's mouth. We do that all the time, so we want to hear you. What do you do? Who are you? Right? Yeah, give it to us. Welcome again.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to test first if my audio
All
is
right. Yeah, we
audible.
can hear you. We can see
All
you.
right, good. Great, great. All right. So good to be here this evening. Hi everyone. It's a big pleasure here. I've been looking forward to this event, to this time with you all. Last week, Saturday, I was supposed to be here, but I couldn't because something came up, and I deeply apologize for that. But very here this evening. My name is Oluwaseun Kayode. My surname though. A lot of people say my surname sounds like first name, by the way. But yeah, Kayode is my surname. Oluwaseun is my first name, and I'm the CEO of Schooling Car. And I'm just going to give a brief about what Schooling Guard does. So we work with experts who are educators with experience and expertise, right, to design high quality training programs and deliver high quality training programs to teachers and school leaders, mostly in low and middle income communities. And we do this delivery via an online channel and even offline channels such as master classes that holds in physical classrooms. Um, so far, we've been able to work with more than 3,000 educators, equipping them with the skills that they need to drive quality learning for their own students. It's been an amazing ride so far. It's such a challenging space to work in. That's education as a whole, right? It's a very challenging space to work in. But yeah, we're riding because if we don't do the work right now, who will? So I hope that explanation or that short description was sufficient to talk about, what we do at School Inca.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just like really took everything out. Because I was going to ask you what you do at School Linker. I mean, it's something that every single person should know about, right? But from a product point of view, because I'm also a product manager, I want to know what has been the acceptability like. How the product, the users, how have they seen it, right? Is it something they can navigate themselves, or you have to like send facilitators there, or is it is something that any school can just get into and buy a course, or just start something up? What's it like?
So, with our product, I would say that there are two, there's acceptability on two levels, right? There's
Yeah.
acceptability on the solution you're providing itself, and then there's acceptability on the technology part of that solution. Now, the
Mm,
technology part of that solution, I mean, technology is not hard to build, and that's the truth. If you agree with
mm,
me, it's just get developers around, build a tool that is very. If you have
yeah.
money, build something beautiful.
Mm,
However, the concept behind that product is much more important than the technology itself.
mm,
Um, we actually live and work in the part of the world where continuous professional development is not seen as something important.
yeah,
We
it's
work
true.
in a space where schools don't see how training their teachers connects to the bottom line. When I say the bottom line now, I mean how does it
Mm,
increase profit, right?
yeah, yeah.
Schools don't see how training teachers will definitely help them be able to produce more qualitative students, right? Or build,
Mm,
quality skills in the students that they serve. So schools will rather spend money on building beautiful school blocks and erecting school
mm,
and buying nice school buses and redesigning their school uniforms than actually
wow.
training their teachers. And that's the
Mm,
situation where we are in right now because not even only the school, the parents are also not helping because the parents can't tell what's the difference between a qualitative school and a less
yeah.
qualitative school. Because parents will only take a child to a school because their friend says, "Oh, their school anthem is
My,
so sweet," or their
yeah.
uniform is so fine,
My
or they
friend
have
goes to
nice.
that school.
Do you understand, right? So, or my friend goes to that school. Oh, she can just follow Shade to that school. That's
Mm,
how parents take children to school. And so, because there is no focus on quality, right, it is making it hard for us to sell our product. And this is me just being
mm,
totally honest. And there's a statistics by UNESCO that says 36% of teachers in Africa are not well trained. Now, let me rephrase that. When we say 36% of teachers in Africa are not well trained, people just say the statistics and go. But let me rephrase it. What it means is that millions of children sitting in the classrooms where 36% of educators are teaching will not be able to learn the skills they need to be able to thrive in the world today and in the world.
Mm,
So
wow.
what we are doing is the fact that we are placing children under teachers who can't teach effectively, and we expect them to
Mm,
come and solve the challenges that we are facing. It will not happen. And this has a ripple
wow.
effect because one teacher
Yes.
in their career lifetime, on the average, will interact with 1,000 students. So now imagine
Mm,
30% of the school workforce interacting with 1,000 students each, and they are not qualified or well trained enough to do that
wow.
job. So it's a
Wow.
big problem that we're solving. The schools have that problem, the teachers have that problem. But now, our job at School Inca really, that's why I said the acceptance is on two levels, is to first help the education system see the problem that we are facing. So they first
Mm,
need to understand that there's a problem, right? They first need
yes.
to.
Yes.
So now when they know there's a problem, we can now present a solution to them. So whenever we go
Mm,
meet educators or we go meet schools, we don't tell them this is our product, use it. No, we tell them you have a problem and we have a solution for you. We
mm,
explain the
so
problem.
true.
In fact,
Yeah.
we spend more time explaining the problem than actually presenting the
The
solution.
solution.
And so
Wow.
exactly. So it's very challenging, trust me, that you working in this space, selling this kind of product to schools when they don't see it as
Wow.
important. But yeah, I think we are making progress. 3,000 teachers, educators, it's not beans, right? But yeah, it's still a
Not.
drop in the mighty ocean, and we still keep moving.
Yes. Yes. Wow. That's so amazing. I love how you link to how that the effect of how much quality education the teachers get or the educators get, would say a lot on the children. Because to be honest, the children cannot give what they've not been what they don't have, and whatever
At
they
all.
have is what they've been given. So if they're not
Yeah.
given enough tools to work with, they would not really understand how to roll in a sane environment. And that's so,
Yeah.
aside from even family, because I mean family is primary, and a lot of times your parents might not be around, so they take you to school. So they expect that the
Yeah.
school takes care of what they are supposed to take care of. And now, when the school is not being able to take care of that, it becomes a problem, right? And I remember an issue that happened. I can't remember what state exactly, but they wrote an exam for teachers, and then they wiped off like more than 50% of the teachers, and people started clamoring on social media, this, that. I'm like, you don't understand what's going on, though. It's not really about this teacher, about these children. I don't know, but it's a lot. I know you have mentioned some of the challenges, but when it comes to really making people see the importance of this, how has it been for you? Do they really see that this thing is something, after doing all the explanation and everything, what the notes that you have gotten? I think that's where we want to start from. I want to lay on
Okay.
that a bit. The notes that you have gotten on, I don't think we want to get this product. How have they been for you? How have they shaped your, growing this product?
So I'm just going to give a bit of background, and I'm just going to share a bit of how I got into education in the first place. I didn't study education. I studied accounting in school. I have my BSc accounting degree, and so when I finished school, I stumbled on this opportunity to go work as a teacher for 2 years in a low-income community as a Teach for Nigeria fellow. And I joined that program even if I had two jobs in a bank, like I had two jobs in the bank. My parents, everybody was waiting for me to finish school so that I can start contributing the family income. But to cut a long story short, I dumped the jobs in the bank to face education and to go teach. And so while I was teaching, I found out that, the difference between a high performing classroom and a somewhat or seemingly low performing classroom is usually in the quality of the person standing in front of the kids in these classrooms, right? So if you see a low performing classroom and a high performing classroom that they are working in the same, they are both in an under resourced environment, the difference you will see there is the fact that there's an extraordinary teacher in that high performing classroom that is making sure that those results are showing. And then I said, beyond the school school buildings, beyond the school uniforms, beyond the school standards, beyond the school, you need a competent teacher to drive effective learning. And so for me, whenever we go to speak to, stakeholders, speak to partners and help them see reasons why they should be part of the work that we're doing, I tell the story all the time. I tell the story of how children that you're working with right now are going to face the future that is going to be driven by, like we used to say, technology, the buzzword. Future that is, the point is, like I used to say, the problems that these children will face is not another type of color of problem. It's the same color of problem. If the problem is yellow, right, in the community where they live right now, the problem is the same yellow in the community where children are attending highbrow schools where they have well competent teachers in. And so the problem of poor teaching quality is very important, that even if you're not seeing how it connects to the bottom line of what you're doing right now, it's important that we need to solve that problem for every child so we can create a level playing ground for them. So when we talk about our product to schools, we don't talk about our product to schools in the sense that, oh, their teachers will be qualified, their teachers will be well trained, their teachers will be competent. No, we talk it from the angle of the child. That's the unit of our measurement. Like it's a child that we are concerned about, the child in that classroom, to ensure that that child has access to quality education that is led by, well-trained educators. So it's really from the child's angle, the improvement that can come to the child's life, the transformation that the power of quality education can bring to this child's life. That's where we talk from. And then we can now say, okay, for you to achieve this, you need to train your teachers. And so that has really helped us, really be able to work with some partners that have funded our work, and then some schools that have actually bought into our product as well.
Wow, that's really so amazing. Like, I feel like it's a lot, right? And something that is an aside that I find amazing again is the similarity between your story and your wife's story. So good. I feel like it's so divine. Woo! You leaving
Yeah,
accounting today. I mean, I want to go and face education, and she also
yeah.
saying, I want to leave my first class to go and face education. And I think that's a really deep issue if you ask me. Like, there's so much. I also do things relating to education for children, and I realize that when you go there to teach them, they go to school and learn something else, and then they come back and you're like, where did you learn this thing from? I thought I already told you that this. And they say, oh, their teacher told them this. And I'm like, how now? Why? Like, what kind of teacher is that? And again, for different environment, because different things work for different environments, right? A public school in Lagos is different from a public school in Osun State, here where I am. So sometimes they go to school in Lagos State, and because you're being paid well, of course you get all your facilities. You might even have like a computer lab. I mean, here they don't even know how to like do basic things on the computer, so it's an issue, right? But I want to know, before, while you were in the process of creating School Linker, what was your thought process like? What was it for you? Because I know that for anybody who wants to go into tech, for instance, you have to have thoughts that, can this thing work? Can it fly on a
Yeah.
technological level? Right? And is this something that people can use? Is this something that would actually work for them and pass the message? Is this something I will do better than you going physically? So I want to know, for somebody who wants to probably go into tech, build their own product and all of that, what was the thought process for you? What did you see? What did you see in all of these things that inspired you to say, you know what, I think we need to go this route?
Yeah, so I would say that, we started this work in 2019, and we started hosting in-person training programs for educators. There was no
Mm,
technology at that time. It was,
mm,
teachers walk into our learning center in Lagos. We use Ikeja most of the times, and then they have access to training. And this was going on well. Like we were making impact. We're seeing the results in the classrooms. However, looking at the number of teachers you have in Nigeria, and then of
mm.
course we were focused on low and middle income educators. These are educators who can't even pay for our services. I remember when we did the work at one point in 2019, me and my program manager were coming back from the training. We had gone to do a training, and then it was our money. We used our money to balance the money for the hall, right? Because they didn't pay us anything. They just came to the training, and they will eat again. We give them transport fare
Mm,
again to the training program.
wow,
We were
wow.
going home at Ikeja, rain started pouring down under the bridge. There was nowhere to go to. So, like, all those challenges are there. The fact that there is not enough money, to be able to power
Mm,
for the teachers, because these teachers can't pay for our product, they can't pay for our services. We need to pay facilitators, we need to pay for the training hall. And so that is when we started seeing that if we move at this rate, we will spend a lot of money in
yeah.
quality
Mm.
professional development to these educators. And that's when we started thinking of how can we scale quality teacher training, right, in a way that it is less expensive. And that's where technology came into play. And that was even shortly before the pandemic, late 2019. We started thinking of how can we use technology to change how teachers learn. We did a short pilot before the pandemic, and that was using Zoom to have training classes. So we hosted training classes on Zoom, and educators were joining, right? Of course, there were people who were complaining of the digital divide. They don't have access to data, they don't have access to internet.
Mm.
But we still had, it's just like you're doing in-person training program and you're begging 50 people to come to training, and you're doing a training on Zoom and then 150 people show up. That's progress, right? This means that teachers are looking for stressless means to actually access training programs. They don't want to, they want training programs that they can attend from the comfort of their homes, right? And so we started saying, okay, technology is working. Technology is helping us reach many more teachers at the same time without having to stress ourselves too much and without having to pay for a venue for them to gather in to have training programs. And so when pandemic hit in 2020, the pandemic is an unfortunate event, global event that I do not pray that it happen again. But still, I would say that the pandemic actually did something in education. It actually multiplied the rate at which educators are able to adopt technology. And so you have more and more educators looking for spaces to, just to comfort themselves. And I remember what we first did that time was to create shared learning communities that happen on Zoom, where educators can come together to just like, share about how they are experiencing the pandemic in their schools, in their learning, and what are the challenges they are facing, and then tackle the challenges. And as we began to grow these shared learning communities, so that educators are, finding more, ways to come online. Even those that are finding it challenging before, they are now like wanting, they're highly motivated to learn how they can get connected online. And more and more and more educators started using smartphones. And then we said, technology has actually come here to stay, even in the education space. And we need to capitalize on this growth and this adoption rate and build something that will stay on tech forever. What we now said was the fact that if teachers are attending Zoom sessions, they're attending whenever we are there. If we are not there, they can't learn. Why don't we build a solution that puts the entire power to access professional development of the teachers themselves? What do I mean by this? That means teachers can choose to learn whenever they want to learn and wherever they want to learn, right? Without we there, right? So what we just need to do is to create content and make it available on a platform, and teachers can access it at any time they want. So that is really putting the entire power to access professional development in the hands of the teachers themselves. And so that's when we started thinking of building an online learning platform where teachers can sign up as users and access online courses. Sort of like a Udemy for teachers, a Coursera for teachers. So we started our work in late 2020 into 2021. We built a pilot. Teachers joined, they acquired the skills, they took the skills to their classrooms, they transformed learning with those skills. And we saw that technology is doing a whole lot. However, we know that even if technology is doing a whole lot to help us expand our reach, there are still some educators we are not able to reach because of the platform that we are making use of for learning, right? Which is, of course, the reason why we are set up is because we want to focus on educators in low and middle income communities. And these are the educators that do not have access to internet. So one thing we are thinking right now as forward thinking is the fact that technology has stages. There's high tech, there's low tech, there's mid tech, whichever stages you want to put it. But what I want to say is that there are different low tech touch points that we can use to reach teachers. For example, one thing we are building right now is how can we use SMS to reach teachers with training. For example, you have your MTN will send you messages on 131. Your So many companies use SMS, bulk SMS for adverts. Why can't we use bulk SMS as well to deliver training to educators who don't have access to internet-enabled smartphones? So these are like the low-tech touch point that we're looking out for. We are also still hosting our physical training programs for educators. For example, we were in Iperuremo in last month, we were in Ota in 2 months ago as well to lead training for more than 300 teachers in these low-income communities, physically deliver the training to them. So we are not neglecting those that are on the lower end of the digital divide. We are also reaching them with training programs. So it's really a holistic approach to teacher training program because we recognize that that's very important. However, I want to say that technology is going to play a big role in the work that we're doing because there's a fast adoption rate of technology, not only in Nigeria, in Africa as a whole. If you look at America, there's 7.2% internet penetration rate. If you look at Asia, there's 2.6% internet penetration rate. Or sorry, 51.8% internet penetration, which is like the largest. If you look at Middle East, there's 3.7%. In Latin America, 9% thereabout. If you look at Europe, there's around 14% internet penetration rate. But if you look at Africa, there's 12% internet penetration rate. Now, 12% compared to Europe, which is 14%, is telling you that Africa is closing the gap. That means in the next few years to come, the rate of the number of people using technology in Africa will be over those using technology in Europe. So technology has come here to stay, and so we need to capitalize on that. In as much as we are thinking of the lower end of the digital divide, we should also be thinking of how to get those people at the lower end into the higher end. And as you can see, all of this is like, for example, like I used to share, people, you see Globalcom or MTN or Airtel, or any of these telecommunications companies, they advertise their data, especially Glo. You go to markets and you see them advertising their Glo, AWOOF data to market women. You see them advertise their data to people who work at construction sites, people who work at factories, and they earn really low. That's to show you that if they're marketing there, there is a market there. That means people are every day they're adopting technology. You go to Computer Village, you know how many number of mobile phones are being sold per day. Even people who earn low than minimum wage save for an entire and they get a smartphone. So educators cannot be left behind in the adoption of technology. And so we are riding on that huge penetration rates that we have currently to still further produce, make our product available to educators while still thinking inclusively about the approach. I don't know if I was able to answer your question there.
Wow, God, you've answered it. Like, what? I mean, I'm so glad I answered that question, because now I'm looking at the brain behind it and I'm like, yo, that's a lot of work. Like, that's a lot of work, because every single time I'm thinking, how do you reach people in low income communities, even with technology? Because of course a lot of them are not using it. So how? Then you go to talk about the forward thinking thing on SMS, right? And you talk about how that you move from physical classes, and it speaks so much to me about the whole process. It speaks so much to me about, this is not something that you just started from the blues or in 2021 or in 2020 to say, oh, let's just leverage on technology. But no, it was something that there was an existing impact you were making before you decided to skyrocket and pilot into a
Yeah.
technological community. And I feel like that's so amazing. You said something, for there to be marketing, it means that there's a market. Wow.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
just really
That's
so
a validation.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so amazing. And I love that you spoke about scalability, because in this generation, there's so much about, we want to start and we want to go up right there immediately. We want to start doing seed funding. We want to start. Can you calm down and look at what exactly is the impact you want to make? Do it in
Yeah.
small bits. Then now
Yeah.
move on to trying to
Yeah.
look for seed funding and trying, because now what's making people go into tech is because they just want to get there and start collecting dollars, and they don't
Yeah.
understand that these are people that you have to use your own money. You spoke about having to use
Yeah.
your own money to do a lot of things. You have to beg people, sometimes literally, to volunteer, to help you, to come on board, right? And it's not because you have all the money, but because you understand that there's a future in this thing and you're
Yeah.
holding passionately to it. And I love that. I love that there's so much progression. It shows that there's so much progression. You're not just trying to start in and just stay there, but you're already looking at how human beings are changing because of the times, right? COVID
Mhm.
came, and then you had to create a community to say, okay, let's start to talk about the problems we are having right now, and can we share insights on how we can solve these problems? That's
Yeah.
just so amazing, And I just want to go a little bit on something you said, um which is, you've been saying it, is a word that you've been using all through education. I want to ask, from your mind, because I'm sure that there's another light bulb moment in that. What is education to you? What exactly is education to you? When you talk about education, when it's a buzzword, people speak about, they say, I'm passionate about education. What exactly does, looking at the wholesomeness of education, what does it really mean to you?
Oh, well, so that question, like you said, it's a very, that's a very popular question. Anytime you have discussions like it, they ask you what is education, and for me, I try my best not to be sploofic about it, right? So there's no need to start conjuring words together. For me,
Okay.
education is simply to learn, right? Opportunity to learn. When there's
Mm,
an opportunity to learn, education is
mm,
going on, right?
wow.
What we are
Wow.
doing right now, this is education, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
education. A lot of people hang up to this call, getting educated. And, for me, I would say that the definition of education is not complete. And this is my own personal opinion. If what you are learning as an individual is not being used. So the application of that knowledge is what I consider as complete education. Of course, you can learn things, you can acquire knowledge, acquire information, get your head filled up with concept and theories. But I believe that the only educated person is a person who applies what he has learned, to his life, to affecting his communities. There's something called the Bloom's taxonomy of learning. And he actually tells about the different stages in learning, from just knowing concepts to the application. So there's something called the
Mm,
higher order thinking skills. It's a pity that in this part of the world, in Nigeria and Africa, we focus on the lower order thinking where people just learn to cram so that they can pass examinations, right?
yes.
People are not moving to the higher order thinking skills where what you learned is now being contextualized in your own particular situation and it's been applied to solve problems. So I believe that
Mm,
if education can move you from lower order thinking, that is just knowing and cramming and pouring out, to the point where you're able to contextualize what you've learned and then be able to apply what you've learned to solving real life problems, then
mm,
that education is not education. So that's my own personal opinion. That's my own personal. That's why our purpose of education at School Inc. is that we are raising educators who are self-aware. They are able to lead themselves. They are able to lead learning.
mm,
And they are able to transform systems. And they're not just able to transform systems. They are able to build their own students to be critical thinkers and problem solvers.
wow.
So if you're an educator and you're not building your student to become a problem solver, we don't think you're educating that child, or educating that
Yeah.
student.
Mm,
So education
mm.
really has to go from just knowing to doing, applying and doing and getting results.
Wow, wow, awesome, awesome. So I want to pick two things from things you said, but first I'll start with you talking about the I want to talk a bit more about how that you've been able to show us that the vision of education for you, the vision of what you do at School Inca is not really about a surface problem. It's not just looking at that. Oh, there are teachers who don't have a degree, there are teachers who are just SSC holders, and we want to train them. It's also about what happens to the children, right? What happens to the people? What happens to the change that we want the children to make, also the problem that we want the children to be able to solve. So it's not just about them learning all of these things. It's also how are they being able to apply it? How are they being so we're not saying we want to sell fish and we just want people to buy it. No, we also want to say
Mhm.
how do you want to sell fish? What do they use the fish for? How are they does it get to
Exactly.
their mouth? Does it actually is it
Yeah.
not that just using it to kill rats or and all of that?
Or do
Do
you
they
or do
want
you even need fish? Or do you even need
yeah,
fish at all? You get
exactly. Do they really need
so
fish at all? I feel like that's like it's a deep thing. So before anybody starts to build anything, you have to think about what's the ripple effect of what you're trying to build? Who is
exactly.
gaining from it aside from your direct customers? Who are the people that is going to affect? I mean, and that's so really, really profound. And I want to ask a question based on the fact that I understand that education is different from schooling, if I may say, right, or being in a school. And these days, because of the current issues, and of course, because we have a wide range of audience here, there's something
Mhm.
people now say about oh, school is a scam and all of that. From an educator point of view, what do you think about it?
Whether school is a scam, that's a very dicey question. It depends on the school you go to, though. That's on the light kind of.
Wow, wow, wow.
That's on the light kind of. Please, I'm not here to shade anyone's school, right?
Wow.
Um, I would say, you said something. You said, education is different from schooling, right?
Mm,
Schooling is a structure, is a system, right? Is a,
mm,
is a, is a whole system on its own. And the I think like people who make that statement that education is or schooling is a scam rather are people who just see schooling from the point of their lecturer teaching them in the classroom alone.
mm,
And I think that's like a misconception because if you look at school, for example, if you're in the university, I mean, we've all, maybe not everyone, but some of us have been to the university, we've gone through the education, sorry, the university schooling system. And then we've seen that, you know, you don't only take lectures in the classroom, right? You
yeah.
also learn other skills, relational skills, connecting with your fellow students. You also learn collaboration skills, you learn communication skills, you learn critical thinking skills. You're able to stand on your own. There's a lot of things going on around education in
Mm,
schooling that people are
yeah.
not looking at. For example, I went to school to study accounting, and now I'm here working with teachers in the classroom. And I would say that my time studying accounting in the university was not a waste, because there are a lot of things I did on campus that are really helping me right now. On campus,
Mm,
I did politics on campus. I was part of the student union government on campus, right?
mm,
I was part of, an entrepreneurship team on campus, of which I know that what I did not experiences, with the entrepreneurship team actually helped me to build Schoolinka right now. You know, the, the
mm,
the exposure I had at that time gave me the confidence I have right now to be able to say, all right, this is what I want to do, this is what I set out to do, and this is what I'll face. I
mm,
didn't have
mm,
those experiences back then. I might not have been prepared for this that I am doing right now. And to
so
me,
true.
I wouldn't say schooling is a scam, right? Because I got a lot of skills that I built from, the other things that are associated with education within school. So
Mm,
education is just a part of schooling. There are other parts that we're not looking at. So I would say that schooling is not a scam. Schooling as a system is not a scam. Of course, there are things that need to be changed and to be tweaked. There are things that need to be worked on. There are things that we need to, like, refix in the schooling system in Nigeria. I wouldn't ignore that. For example, a lot of students are at home now because of ASU strike. That's a
yeah.
problem system, right? There are a lot of things that needs to be fixed, but still, all, schooling as a concept is not a scam, and it will never be a scam because that system has
Mm,
worked for ages and ages and will keep working.
wow, awesome. Thank you very much for that question, for that answer rather. So I want to go a bit personal, right? I want to go into what's your thought process like, because for me, when I want to take from people, in situations like this, I like to, let's have it wholesome, let's have everything, right? So I want to know what exactly, when you think about, before you do anything, what's usually your action process like, or what's your execution process like, right? So you have an idea. What exactly goes on in your head before you now put out that idea? Because for a lot of people now, they have ideas. There's just so many ideas without anything being done about them. But I want to know for you, because for me, you come off as somebody who knows what he wants and actually goes for it. You know what you want, you know how to get people together, and you know how to get them to do it. And I've seen this time and again. And I mean, sometimes I go through your page and I'm like, so be coming down now. Let's be taking things easy. But really, I want to know what goes on in your head. How do you get to do all of the things that you do?
I would say first of all, I think it stems from defining seasons in your life as a
Mm,
being. Um, so for me, I think one thing that I've been able to do with God's help is to define whatever season I am in my life. Della, if
mm,
you come to meet me in the next 10 years, you might not find me at school in car, because at that point in time, something has
mm.
changed, right?
Wow.
So at every point in my life, at every season in my life, there is a definition of that season for me. You know, I have this, I know this, through the Holy Spirit that's inside of me. I mean, for those of us who are believers on the call. So I mean, and through that, once I am able to define that season, then I'm able to say, okay, what are the ideas I have right now that falls into that season? Trust me, like you said, ideas are
Mm.
free, they are cheap.
Yeah.
I tried it, and the point is, a lot of people say, Oluwaseun, you do a whole lot. How do you do it? How do you manage a lot of these things that you do all together? But I say, I mean, there are a lot of things I do that fail that you don't know about to, right? So sometimes, for instance,
Mm.
I started a beans packaging business. Like we'll pick beans and then package and everything. Trust me, that thing failed.
Failed.
I mean, and for me, right? If I go to my
Wow.
store in the house now, the bags are still there and I'm still keeping it. And that's just keeping it for a memory of God's faithfulness that at one point I started this thing. I know, I know that
Wow.
at some point in the journey, in my journey, I'm going to go back to that. I'm still going to do it.
Mm,
But at this
mm,
moment, this is not the time for it. I laid my hand on
mm,
something that is not for that season of my life. So for me, once I'm
mm.
able to identify the season of my life, the season
Wow.
that I am in, I've defined it, whatever ideas I have at that time that falls in line with that season, then I begin to try my hands on it. And of course, God leads me to, okay, this is what I want you to do at this particular point in time. This is what I want you to double down on. This is what I want you to share with other people so that they can take the vision and run, because it's not for you,
Hey,
right?
yes.
That you need to support other people. For example, there's a project I'm currently working on with a friend of mine. I had this idea. I have it. Like, I can download it. I can download the document for you like this. This is what I want to do. But then a friend reached out to me and told me this is what he wants to do. He doesn't have the idea fully blown. He just reached out to me that this is an
Mm.
idea in his head. And God immediately told me, guy, that's the guy that's supposed to do
Yes,
this.
that's
Support that
it.
guy. You understand? And then I
Yes.
pack it and give it to him, right? And I'm like, I'm going to
Wow.
support you all the way, right? So, but for me, before I finally say this is the way I want to go, I get leading from God most of the time, and God say, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and pursue that, right? And so, in terms of execution, I love using a design thinking model approach a whole lot, right? So for most of us that are familiar with the design thinking process, there is the, the empathize part, the
Mhm.
define part, the prototype, the testing, and all of those things. So I execute bit by bit. Sometimes when you see something fully blown, oh, something big that probably schooling guy is doing or has done, this is something that I started in small bits before that you guys
Yeah.
don't even know about. You
Wow.
don't even know how we have tested this before in the past. So before we make noise, we have done the job underground and know that, okay, this is solid.
Mm.
Let's put it out. So I execute in bits. I execute in bits, and once I execute in bits and I see that this makes sense, I throw it out, and then I, bring in people that can help me out with it. So I
Mm.
that executing bit gave me opportunity to test. That's why I say I use the design thinking model approach a lot to be able to launch out things, big time. But really, if it doesn't align with that season of my life at that point in time, I switch it off, and then I focus on what I can do bit by bit at different point in time in my life. I don't know if that was helpful.
Wow, it was really helpful. One thing that I hold here is that it's okay to fail. It's
It's
okay to
okay to
fail.
fail, man.
Drop it down and
Della,
come back to it.
it's
Really.
okay to fail. Oh. It's okay to fail.
Wow.
Trust.
Because I don't remember one funny experience when I was in part two. I started a moi business. God, I don't know how I did that thing. For somebody, for somebody that hates to cook, I started a moi
Yeah.
business. I'm like, let me just start it. Let me just, and I did the guy. He spots in my room like this. Oh boy, it was plenty, and he spots in my room. And I'm like, okay, now what's this? And I remember that around the same time, I started a pepper soup business with my friend, just to keep up at the time. And it really
Mm.
worked. It blows on that because I was not the one that was cooking it. So I'm like, okay, it means that I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. So I just, sat on it and just finished. And I really, really, really loved all that you said. Understanding your season, making use of design thinking. And this is just so it just so makes a lot of sense. I also want to go into what does friendship, collaboration, making alliances, what does it mean to you? Because now you said something that I really love, and it speaks so much to not holding on to ideas, not holding on to something that God has told you. But the fact that God has told you doesn't mean that it's for you, right? So how do you, and this in this world that we're in, people hold on dear to to their ideas. So because you have an idea and somebody else has launched it, you say you're not more doing it again. Or you shared an idea with somebody and they go and launch it. Meanwhile, they've probably had the idea before. You now
Mm.
feel, oh, this person stole my idea, and blah 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 blah. Or you have an idea, you can't even you don't even have the money to do it. So maybe sometimes you just think, I think I know somebody who has the money. How can we come together to do this thing? Right? How can we? But it's a lot of ownership. There's an ownership mentality when it comes to launching ideas, executing
Mm.
ideas. What do you have to say about this? Because I've seen you work on other people's projects. I've seen other people work on your project as well. How do you work without the fear of saying, what if somebody takes this idea from me? Or what if, I give my all suddenly to this idea that I no longer have anything remaining?
Mm.
There's this how do I put it? It's a low abundance mentality that you feel like
Yeah.
you have a shortage of abundance of ideas or resources or something. But I want to know how you're able to deal with that in your walk of life.
So I would say that um, first thing I would mention is the fact that, guys, this is a decade of communities.
Mm.
So this is not decade of solo movement. There's no solo movement. This is when you walk alone. I mean, I don't want to say what the second part of that statement is, but yeah, this is a decade of communities, and you need to understand that perfectly well. The people who are going to do amazing things in the next 10 years, there are people who hook themselves in communities. When it comes to innovation in this decade, connectedness is very important. If you are not connected with other people and form a community, you might not be able to do much. So you need to pay attention to that. So most times when you have a problem you want to solve, you have an idea you want to launch, what you should be thinking of first is who can help me launch this idea in a better way? Who can help me bring this idea to life? You need to understand the part that community play in your, innovation and whatever you're doing, in whatever you're thinking of. So learn the decade of communities. That's where we are in. Partnership is very important. Collaboration is key. And let me tell you something. Whatever idea you have right now in your head that you're thinking that is so novel, you think is a beautiful idea, that is only you that God has given in this world. Trust me, there are thousands of other people who are carrying that idea in their head. Now, let me say something, right? There's a part of the scripture where, people were coming to Jesus, I think children and all of these things, and then the disciples were sending them away. And Jesus Christ made a statement. He said, if you stop these people, like if people will not praise me, what will happen? I will raise what? Stones, right? Who will praise me, right? Who will worship me? Now, there's a part in the Old Testament as well. I think it was Elijah, I'm not sure, who was, saying, he was crying to God and saying, Lord, they are killing all the prophets. I'm the only one left. They are killing your people. And God says, I have 7,000 other men that you don't even know of. That's Prophet Elijah doesn't even know that there are 7,000 other prophets that God has trained somewhere. Trust me, there are a lot of people that God has put the ideas in their head. So if you have an idea in your head, you don't have a monopoly of of ideas rather. There's this popular saying, I'm going to paraphrase, that says the best ideas in this world right now are in the grave. But I used to say that the best ideas right now, they are still in people who have not realized the fact that they need to share the idea and they need to work on it. So when you hold your idea dear to your heart so much, right? I mean, I feel like when it comes to idea sharing, you can share an entire concept of an idea without actually sharing your execution plan. You can share an idea of a particular solution you want to bring forth without actually sharing about the product itself. I agree with the fact that there's competitive advantage. I agree with the fact that there's strategy in terms of how you execute your idea. There's strategy that you don't want to make public to maybe your competitors or people you think that will steal your strategy. But in terms of idea itself, there's no monopoly of idea. So if there's anybody that can help you bring your idea to life, feel free to share with them. So far, you have a leading in your spirit and your heart that you should share with those people. Feel free to share with them. Don't try to hold back and think that you are the only one who actually have that idea. You're not the only one. Other people will come in your face and execute that idea in your face and even do it better than you think if you sleep on it. So don't sleep on your ideas. Share your ideas widely to people that can help you with those ideas. You might not share strategies of execution. You can keep that private. That's your own armory, when you go to
Yeah.
battle. Yes, when it comes to idea, the concept itself, feel free to share to people who can help you bring this to life. Don't try to put it on your chest alone, like, just be at liberty to share.
Wow, awesome, awesome. So we have about two questions before we round up. So one question says, Della, please help me ask what he thinks about homeschooling kids, mostly kids in Nigeria. I mean, those things sometimes they irk me, but let's hear from the expert. Yeah, what do you think about homeschooling?
Well, I don't have any negative view about homeschooling. I just believe that homeschooling is a choice. Just like you make a choice to send your children to schools, outside of your home, that's a choice you made. But if you choose to homeschool your child, that's good. That's totally fine. But my problem is with parents who say they want to homeschool their children, but they are not doing a good job. Some
Mm,
parents say they are homeschooling their children and then they just leave their children with one uncle that they don't even know where it came from. And that one is doing
mm,
all sorts with the child, right? So
mm,
if you want to homeschool your child, it's a very good strategy. I know people who have done it and they are doing it really well. And I know people who have done it and they are doing a terrible job at it. Ensure that every system, for your child to have an holistic education is in place in your home. There is an expert tutor who is teaching the child. There is adherence to curriculum. Not you're not just teaching the child anyhow. There's like, oh, you're following because this child, whether you homeschool the child or not, you're not going to give the child homeschool exam, right? This child is going to write WAEC.
It's
This
the
child will write
same exam.
national exam, will write jump. So if you don't homeschool your child very well, jump will jump the child whenever the child is about to write jump. So ensure that your homeschooling is aligning with the curriculum, and ensure that you are creating space for your child to be equipped with social emotional learning skills. When I say social
Mm,
emotional learning skills, collaboration, because when you homeschool your child, you're robbing them of the opportunity to connect with other students like them, their peers.
yes.
So many
True.
people who homeschool their children, what they do is that they find communities where their children can be part of, sort of like a weekend program that their child can be a part of. They have, opportunities in church, in mosques, wherever they attend, where they have children there. And these children can come together, like social clubs that are outside of the schools, that these children can be a part of, like STEM communities. So ensure that the social emotional learning aspect is not because your
Mm,
child will work in the decade of communities. Remember, I told you about decade of communities. Your child will come out to work in that decade. Your child will need to work with people. Your child will need to know how to ask for help. Your child will need to know how to critically think. Your child will know think to know, will want to, should really know how to work with other people to come up with solutions. So
mm.
you need to put all those things in place, all those systems in place. I'm not against homeschooling. Homeschooling is great for those who understand how to do it perfectly well. You can also do training on homeschooling. There are a lot of training out there, for parents who want to homeschool their children. So you can do training so that you know what you need to put in place. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So this second question says, I have a vision to equip students, young people in low-income communities, with relevant digital skills that they can use to earn in the future. What counsel can you offer me?
Well, so the question is not really specific, but I'll just give general counsels, right? So, first is whatever you're designing, ensure that you put the people you're designing for in the center of that design. So you can't
Mm,
design a solution if they are not at the center of the design. The young people you want to equip with digital skills. I mean, what do they even think about digital skills? What's their exposure to the digital world? You need to think about that as you design.
mm,
You need to think about resources, where resources going to come from for you to be able to equip these guys with digital skills. In terms of resources, these young people cannot pay for that training. That's
mm,
their income community. So how do you get to fund that training? How you need to think about all these bits before you venture into it. Because trust me, um, there are a lot of people who say they are doing good. Doing good should not get you frustrated. That's
mm.
one thing. So if you're
Yeah.
doing good, ensure that you have systems for that brings in the resources that enable you do that good and do it well. So ensure that those resources are in place. Then of course, one thing I'm going to say, right, is the fact that doing good should do you good as well, right? So ensure that you're rewarding yourself as you do this job. Social entrepreneurship or the non-profit world can be very, very tasking. Ensure that
Mm,
you reward yourself as you go along. But
mm,
of course, one thing I need you to know is the fact that having a vision is not enough. You need a team to collaborate with. So if you have this
mm,
big vision, learn about who can help you execute it, gather like-minded people, share the vision with them, let them run with it, and you guys can build something more sustainable like that. Don't think about how you can do this alone. Think about how you can do it with other people. So learn people, learn processes, learn like I said, something as well, executing by bits. If you have a vision to reach 3,000 young people, start with 50, for example, start with 20, right, for example, and see how it goes. Learn from every of your process. Whatever you do today, learn from it and apply that learning as you continue refining your program, you continue, redesigning your program. I wish this question is a bit more specific as to one particular area, by which I can address, but I'm just hoping that the general counsels I've given are helpful enough.
mm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think I would also love to add that that person uses the process that you mentioned at the beginning, where you're like, understanding if this is the time to do it. Also understanding what time will be okay for for your audience. Those people, do you want to do it during the holidays? Do you want to do it on Saturdays? Do you want to collaborate with
Yeah.
schools to do it? Also, what's your design thinking process like? I think that
Mhm.
that's also like a great way to start off. So thank you very much. I think the last question I'm going to ask is going to be around what your structure is like in schooling. So how do you recognize your rewarding system? Because I think that that's a problem when it comes to social impact. So I need to speak about making impact and making money. So maybe you want to make a bit of comment on that. And I also think you want to make a bit of comment on the structure. So when you put your structure in place, put your team members in place, what do you do? What's your rewarding system like? Um what's your remuneration system? I don't know if that's how you put it, but how do you get to that point where you're like you're no longer struggling? Because I hear you when you say that you should not be making good and be struggling and not be doing yourself good, right? So how do you juxtapose doing good and also doing good to yourself?
All right. So I would say that, of course, doing good should do you good, because
Mm,
if doing good is not doing you good, then you're not doing good at all.
wow.
I love saying that a lot. So doing good should do you good all the time. For us, of course, we are a social enterprise, so we leverage on we earn revenue from the work that we do. We have teachers who pay for our training programs. We have schools who pay us to hire for them. We have contracts that we accept from some international organizations. For example, we had a contract with Teach for All, where we participated in a global research study and we were paid handsomely for that work. Of course, all this didn't start today. It's because of the work and the reputation we've built so far. That's why people can call
Yeah.
us up and say, "We want you to do this for us." So you need to build your track record first. So even if you want to do good and earn money, track record is very important for you to build. We are not there yet, but of course, where we are right now has really earned us some recognition for us to be able to access some opportunities. Um, Apart from revenue from those contracts and those trainings and those school hires, we also receive grants. And that's why I said our work is really focused on low income and middle income teachers who work in low and middle income communities. And so we receive grants from organizations, from individuals who would like to make impact in that area, who would like to contribute to that work. So we receive this grant to be able to design training programs and deliver to these educators. For example, I mentioned earlier in the call that we had Ikperu and Ota in Ogun State to deliver training programs. These training programs were absolutely free, but they are funded already by someone who thinks they want to make impact. Right. So we leverage on grant funding as well to be able to pull what we do. So the second question you ask around structure, of course, we have full-time staffs who work at Schoolinka, who earn salary, and these people are paid from the revenue we generate from the grant funding we get. I would say we're a very, very small team, very, very small team, very, very small team, and it's very intentional that we are growing that small. So, because at this point in time, we're still a startup, and so because we're a startup, we do not need I would say um, we do not just need people who are brilliant who can do work. We need builders. At the startup phase, who you want to be looking out for are people who, if they found a business or if they found an organization, they will found it very well, or they will find it very well, whichever terms you want to use. But you need founders at the early stage, people who are able to build blocks together and make a foundation really strong. And that's why we are growing really small and not just hiring. So we are a very small team. We have people who are paid to do the job. We have reward systems. Some of our staff members are also paid more to when they bring educators into the community. Maybe when they bring in more educators, apart from their work that they do, they get rewarded as well for doing that. We also have a group of growth associates. These growth associates, they are educators themselves. They're in our community, but they also work with us to get more educators to be part of our community. So they earn compensation for doing that job with us. So they have their teaching jobs which they do at their schools, but of course they earn extra from Schoolinka for referring other educators. So we have different layers of how we reward the people in our community. We're a very small team, work with a large group of growth associates to fuel our growth, and then people are paid to do the job. So I don't know if I answered that question of structure very well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that now I'll just leave it to sort of give like a general counsel based on your abundance of the heart.
Yeah.
Give unto us. And honestly, you've given a whole lot. It's really I cannot
Yeah.
really explain how but I'm sure that it has sown a seed in the
Mm.
heart of a lot of us, right? To really think about how what our thinking processes are like when we're building vision, how to
Mm.
really bring it to life and what to consider while doing it, and also understanding the process of what we are building. But I would love you to, sort of just give like a general counsel, to the audience tonight.
Yeah, all right. So I mean, I don't have anything too long. I would just say there's always a space for anyone who is willing to do good. So if
Mm,
you're willing to, there's space for you. There's space for you because the world needs more good, like needs a lot of good. So if there's
mm,
anything you're thinking of right now that you think can benefit humanity, that you want to set up and you want to start taking actions on them. Start thinking, start talking to people on how you can bring this to life. Start speaking to God and let God lead you. And then of course
mm,
swing into action. The moment you get leading from God, don't wait on it. Swing into action because trust me, God is not going to wait for you to do what He wants to do in the world. So if He has given a vision to do, He wouldn't wait for you to do it because trust me, the will of God is optional. As
mm,
powerful and as mighty as God is, He will
yeah.
never force the will of anybody, right? As
Mm,
powerful as He will never say this is what you must do and you must do it. You do it or you die. No, the
mm,
will of God is very, 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 just as salvation is an option, is a choice, right? So that's how the will of God is. And of course, that's how the vision that God has put in your heart is as well. You need to ensure that whenever God gives you a leading to do something, swing into action because God will not wait for you. God will put that vision in someone else's heart. So it depends on you to yield, right? Whether you want to be a vessel or not. So advise that, of course, swing into action, speak to people, get a system of support, ensure that you are in the midst of like-minded people, inspire people, let people inspire you as well. And then, of course, you'll be good. You'll be good. Just take
yeah.
things bit by bit. Focus on whatever you're doing at every point in time, and then success will hit home.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
that. Like, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
tonight. It has really been amazing. Right. Your rounding off counsel. It just reminds me about how someone used to say that for a lot of things that we're doing now, we're doing what somebody else should have done, but they didn't do. Like
Mm,
a lot of things.
yeah.
When you see somebody who is doing like two, three things all together, you know that this is not supposed to be for one person. It's supposed to be in those
And
days.
so
Yeah.
sorry to cut in, right? So I received a call a few months ago, and it's from a former commissioner of education in one of the southwestern states. And he called me and he said, Oluwaseun, you are doing what I should have done. He said it was
Wow.
like what you're doing right now is what my younger self wanted to do,
Wow.
and you're
Wow.
doing it. So I mean, I'm just sharing that just to buttress the point you just
Yeah.
mentioned right now. Really, we are doing things that some people should have done, and so if we don't do it, some
Wow.
people will do it.
Yes, that's it. So in those days, people used to just pick one thing and focus on it because I mean it's still a thing now. People say
Mm,
pick one thing and be good at it, stay with it, right? So in those days, if you're a banker, you be a banker and that's it. If you're a pastor, you be a pastor and that's it. But these days, we're seeing people do a lot of things, and that's it speaks to
yeah.
so much to that. We don't have the luxury of time to stall over an idea or just sit
Mm,
down and say, I'm still praying to God about it, still praying to God about it. When God has told you to go, what are you praying for
yeah.
again? And that's what we keep doing all the time. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This was so
You're
inspiring.
welcome.
Yeah,
You're
it just met
welcome.
the whole objective of tonight's session, and I really, really do appreciate. Thank you so
And
much. Yeah.
apologies for missing the
I
Saturday.
know it's okay. Maybe it was even for this good, so that we'll be able to. But thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank you so much.
thank
Yeah, and
you
that'll be
very
all
much.
tonight. Good night. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Wow, that was an awesome session. I'm sure that we can agree with me. Gosh, guys. I mean, it was just my heart was just here boiling like, we got it, we got it. And I'm really, really so blessed tonight. I mean, I'm going to go back. I made notes. I took notes here to, pick up and go back and really look at it to say, what can I begin to execute right now? How can I begin to scale my ideas? What can I think of, right? In the current things that I'm working on, how can I begin to look at the work that I do and think of the next level idea. You guys, like, I mean, I hope I'm not the only one that took all of these things because I'm just so excited because it spoke a lot to what we all need in this season. We have said that this is the decade of communities. If you don't pick anything out of that, you have to pick that. So you are in a decade of communities, do something about your community, add value, and let people also add value to you. Don't be left there. Don't just be doing things anyhow, right? Make sure that you are on point with your guys, you're sustaining relationships, sustaining friendships, and not just coming in and going out of community is going to help you a lot. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. My name is Abayomi Adiola Della, and I'm your host on the Becoming Conference. And I hope that I've been doing a great job. Make sure you share this video. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Go and subscribe if you haven't. Go and check if you have subscribed. If you have not subscribed, go and subscribe. And we meet again on the 17th, which is 2 days more. That's on Thursday. We are going to be having Ele Lawal, Ele Lawal Gold, right? Yeah, that's her. That's a new name. So Ele Lawal Gold, we're going to be having her. Um, and guys, I'm so looking forward to that session because that's a woman who has really been able to pour out her heart into other women, help them to level up, also level up herself. I'm so excited to hear her story. I'm so excited to hear her inspire us as well. And I'm sure that we're really going to be blessed. Thank you so much. This is where I peace out. Thank you. I would have played music, but YouTube is going to put copyright claims. So let's be going to our houses. Bye bye, everyone. Good night.